Kelly's new book Scripts is available here for anyone who wants it. But Kelly's going to introduce a number of her collaborators and also do a reading. So, yeah, welcome Kelly.
Hi everyone! Okay, so thank you so much for having us, Andy, in Luton. It's good. And so I've got a book of scripts, and they're scripts because I never work on my own, and I'm all the time having to work with other people because I want to. And so the scripts are very often written in response to people I know or heroes of mine, or in response to kind of different texts that I've read that I can't stop thinking about. And very often they've, over the years, involved me working with people who I know that have kind of performed them with me as well. So I figured that on that basis it probably made more sense this evening, rather than me reading a piece on my own, but to invite some people who also write, whose work that I really enjoy, to kind of come here and read instead. And I'll also read a script from the book as well with a couple of other people. So this evening we've got a few things. We've got a recording from an artist called Luton, who's in Scotland at the moment, but wanted to be here, and so she's here by proxy. So I'm going to be playing a recording by her, which is going to take about 8 minutes after this introduction. And then, sorry, but I've decided to change the order of play a little bit, everybody, and that's going to be followed by an artist and a writer called Thompson, who's going to be reading a series of poems that he wrote at 3 AM while he was in LA. And then after this, David Raymond Conroy, who's an artist and a writer, is going to read a short story. And then and then after that, I'm going to read and then after that, I'm going to read a piece from one of the scripts with my friend Adam and also Jesper, and I'll explain that piece before we do it. And then finally I'm going to read 2.5 poems by my friend Alex Shakety, who also can't be here this evening because he's currently in a petrol station in Stuttgart. So that's how it's going to go this evening. So first I'm going to play Gil's recording, which will take 8 minutes. I think the whole thing's going to take about 35-40 minutes. So yeah, so can someone help me, like with the Gil? And she's recently written it. So forgive me if when it starts the sound isn't perfect. We haven't, like, so ready? Is it working?
The meeting went well. Each had made statements that could have been, safely, read in a number of ways. Only a few people had talked over each other. At a certain point you were aware that you had exited. You were watching the film and thinking about watching rather than watching. Monitoring the way each holds the words, the gestures, the breaking off and into little camps of speech, the defences, ingratiations, inroads. Thinking about the person next to you, the slight body heat they give off when they move, their face turned away, the desire to touch them, but only to touch them, not to desire them. Handing out the drinks, but never drinking. Sitting facing away, sitting legs apart, hands braced. Sitting for 2 hours next to a man breathing heavily through his nose. He is unaware of this because he has headphones in and has drunk a jumbo-sized can of weak beer between mouthfuls of what smelled to be a fish-based sandwich followed by a cheese-based pastry. You can literally smell the beer coming out of his nostrils. It is as fascinating as it is repulsive, as it is mundane. You imagine recounting this to someone and how entirely irrelevant it would seem and would in fact be. His reading the news, his breathing matching his levels of interest as he scrolls. Reflected in the window, you watch a film starring Sean Penn, a woman with dark hair and fringe, dressed in a white sort of folksy shirt and blue jeans, staggers along the side of a white van before falling slowly, knees first, to the ground. She makes it halfway across the van and crumples, presumably dead, exactly centre shot. There is no blood, perhaps she is poisoned. A river scene at night, the effect of the lights on the water and the faces half in shadow. This morning you thought of breasts and then of the cloth that covered them, changing the colour and texture of the fabric, the little folds, the tautness, opacity and stretch. Walking from the bedroom across the apartment to the toilet, you imagine never leaving the apartment. Your own nipples are better than the ones imagined, but admired in their own attachment to you. You are surrounded by men. It is mostly men who travel in this way. Few women apart from the occasional couples or groups on shopping holidays. Some women in shoes that look overworn. You are thinking 3 weeks back in time to when, during a meeting, you asked if it was about game design as well as writing, and now admonish yourself for this attempt at cohesion, said mainly because of the feeling that something should be said, not because it was needed, or even of interest. The breather has left, presumably to sit alone. He left you before you left him. What odour worse than his must you have been producing? The scent of observation, the feeling of eyes rolling upon you. Stop staring, your brother said. Everyone can see you looking at them, you know. You can notice everything about another person and still just be thinking of yourself. Every time you hear someone playing the piano at the international arrivals gate, it breaks you. Just a bit. You are not sure if it is because it is such a cheap ploy or because the music is moving and totally contrived. Actually, you totally know which. You like to sit next to the person leaning against the glass division between the seats on public transport. It feels, no looks, no feels as if they are resting on your shoulder. Every time someone coughs, you hold your breath. Those moves, seeing someone you know and lowering your head so that you can lift it as they near, as if constantly looking were offensive to all involved, because lifting a face to someone else's signals attention, but looking directly at them is an affront. And when the lift is not met, the smile not engaged, you could say it went unseen. There was no eye contact. But of course bodies sense each other. Gestures are legible far outside of faces. In the supermarket, you picked up a chocolate bar and then a wafer. You were irritated when the cashier talked to another cashier whilst holding your change in her hand, talking across you and in the act delaying the change being returned. The woman directly opposite you has a brand name bag. The last gold A has fallen off, leaving little indents where the A should have been. When you were younger and your mother was younger, she would pinch the skin on the back of your hand, inspecting how quickly it would spring back into place compared to hers. You do this sometimes with your own hands, but have no hands to compare the speed to. Yesterday, you made pasta. It was okay. Dreadful or delicious would have made for better anecdotes, but it was just okay. The conversation was okay. Some of the right things were said. In fact, the rightness was at the level of arbitrary. At no point did anyone celebrate a thought unsaid. It was all okay. You feel weird these days, like your blood is running high, like your mouth is too shut. You notice it less when you're with others. It does remind you of when you were a kid and you would just stare into the carpet for hours, tripping yourself out on focal distance. There was a specific scent of the fibres of the sofa, a plain cottony smell, a mouth-wet, frayed edge of sleeve, the arm of the sofa slightly dampened by your own breath, the swaying off-white carpet 2 feet away from you, the cleanish or at least unhormonally active scent of your own child skin, soft and chubby under your child face, the little nails appearing still too hard and pink embedded in your soft, tan hands, bruised knees, hard-fleshed stomach. Feeling the world tip and sway to your own breath, thinking of calling and then calling out, thinking of imagining what it would be to be a child without already even understanding you are one. secreting vitamin pills behind the bookcases, behind the books used to press flowers in cheap paperback pages, tiny white paper mites that live in the book spines with the dehydrated skeletal leaves, minutes stretching into off-white coloured carpet and inarticulate tan flesh hands. Playing in order to be seen to be playing. You play so well. It looks exactly like playing, even to you. In the shop, you stop talking as you approach the shoe section, scanning the shelves of only left shoes for approximations of desirous objects. There is absolutely no specific form that is being sought. The object will be absolutely known upon sight, absolutely unknown prior to sight. Each rack is gone over left to right, then right to left. Sometimes the eyes hurrying over the object in order to get to the speculative desired one sooner. Rushing over shelves and shoes, hesitating on a buckle or heel dimension, turning on a colour or texture. It is, you realise, exactly the same way in which you read, stumbling fast over the words, seeking speed over appreciation, more words over meant words. This trouble with reading developed when much younger, and it seemed that being a fast reader was the optimum form of reading over being a good reader, or rather, fast equaled good. These core level assumptions stand now, even if they are counted. It is not only the shoes that are approximates of desire, people are also. The desire rate raised when any recognition of competition occurs. When no correlate is found to speculation, there is only proximity. Thrown down and shuffled on, stuffing the foot into the shoe, half on or off, incorrect and present.
That was Gillen's approximations. So thank you, Gillen, Scotland. That was amazing.